All right. Let's do this
All
thing.
right, let's do it.
Mm,
Okay, you start us off since you're the expert.
okay. Uh. We ready?
Yeah.
Perfect. We're not going to cut out any of this. It's all going to stay in. Okay. What's
Oh
up,
man.
everybody? We talk about rom-coms here. I don't know what we called this little subsection of the Carlot channel, but we're gonna title it something creative. I mean, you're looking at the title of it right now, probably if you're looking at this video. But we talk about rom-coms. Oh, and
Yeah,
we're
and we
related.
hope to have several. We hope this to be a continuous thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it was your idea to do the rom-com, or was it my idea?
You
I
wanted to
don't
do
know.
a podcast thing, and you were like, "What should
Yeah,
we do it on?" And I'm thinking, well, where do our interests intersect? And rom-coms are for sure right there in the center.
yeah. Well, I think it's funny because sometimes we like just roms, I'll say, without the coms.
Yep.
But it's comical because really, who's defining what the rom-com is? I've seen plenty of rom-com that I didn't even chuckle once. So I don't know who decided that it was a rom-com. And then I've seen like Hallmark movies that are strictly rom, and I'm fucking dying because they're so stupid.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's a tale maybe for another time, is how do we define the rom-com? But you picked out this movie. It's called About Time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's starring, how do you say his name? Domhnall?
Domhnall Gleeson.
We're probably butchering it.
I think that's it. I think we got it.
And Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, Rachel McAdams.
And Bill, do you say Nye or Nye?
Bill Nye.
When was the first time you saw this movie?
I saw it with Kaylee.
Oh, really? So recently?
Yeah, we watched it. God, maybe like 2 months ago, and we both were like, "Yo, this movie slaps." And she went home and she watched it with her parents, because she was like, "You're gonna like this," and they did. So when mom was like, "What are we gonna watch when you come over?" I was like, "This," because mom's not as big of a fan of like the ironically funny movies, like Hallmark movies and stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
let's throw in an actually pretty decent movie into this mix.
Well, I saw this one a couple of years ago, and I liked it, but it's not a stressful movie. But I remember being like, I don't know if I can deal with the stress. And so I hadn't watched it again. But anyway, but I knew it wasn't stressful. And the only stressful time is when they have their little sex scene, which honestly was not that bad. But I think I have PTSD from watching American Beauty with Mom and Scott many years ago. I was so uncomfortable. So when this cute little scene came up, I immediately ducked out of the room and made popcorn when I knew I would
They
be
don't
out of
even fuck on screen. If I'm remembering correctly, it cuts from them being like, "Let's do it," to it does like a smash cut to them being done.
To be fair, I walk in from making popcorn and your face is buried in your sweatshirt. So you don't even don't act like you were watching it full screen.
That's because,
Anyway.
let's be honest, it was so cold in our house that day. It was very chilly.
Oh.
That's why I was buried. But
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we probably should just like mention what this is about in case people haven't seen it. But like, it's not that hard of a concept, especially for the fact that it's a time traveling concept. It's not that complicated. It's just Bill Weasley from Harry Potter falls in love with Rachel McAdams, and while that's happening, he can also.
No, before it happens, he finds out from his dad, Bill Nye.
We're fucked. You're right. So let me redo it. So Bill Weasley from Harry Potter and his father, who is, I believe, Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. Isn't that Bill Nye? He's the Squid Man.
Yeah, he is, and you can only tell because he does the little head jerk thing. He
Right.
can't help himself, and, like,
Right.
every role, he does the head jerk
He
thing.
does. You're right. You're right. And he's got kind of the same sort of like um I don't know, he enunciates things similarly all the
Yes,
time.
he's kinda like Christopher Walken.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I don't care how much pounds of makeup he has on, or he could have, like, masks and completely his body completely transformed, and you're like, "Oh, yeah,
That's Bill
Christopher Walken."
Nighy. Hmm.
Yeah, right.
So Davy Jones tells Bill Weasley that he can time travel. And it's been a thing that all men in their family could do throughout multiple generations. All he has to do is go into a dark room where no light is like coming in, and he squeezes his fists and thinks of a time that he has lived through. So like he can time travel back in time, not forward in time, and he can only time travel to a point in time that he has lived. He can't go back in time and like say what's up to Victor Hugo or something like that. Only through his lifetime and places that like the path that he has already walked. He can only go to a location that he's been before.
And I will say, I I think I'm very hyper aware when I watch a movie, and I think that, okay, they're trying to give me information. We've talked about this, remember? Like, somebody will call their sister and be like, "Hey, sis." Okay, they're trying to tell us that that's their
Forced
sister.
exposition. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Where
when
they
it's
just
nobody would
dump it.
actually say that.
Yeah.
So, I think in this movie, I thought they did it well. I mean, it wasn't it did I wasn't hyper aware
Mm.
that, okay, they're trying to give us this info. I mean, obviously, it's what is that called when you know it's make believe, you know it's not a real world, but they're able to you're able to
Your suspension of disbelief.
thank you. I thought that all right, well, we'll get into the time travel concept in a minute because I am not a fan of time travel in
Okay.
movies. Just the concept of it, because I think, like, for so many years, I wouldn't watch the 3rd Harry Potter movie. And
Because of the time traveling
yeah,
final
and
quarter of the
Justin
movie.
yeah, Justin would be like, we have so many discussions about it. I get so passionate about it because I'm like, what? This makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll get there. But I find myself whenever there's time travel comes up in anything I watch or I read, I just have to be like, okay, can't think too hard on it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna move on and just enjoy whatever I'm watching or reading. But okay, you're right. So he finds that out from his dad. And the dad does bring up, which I thought was good because this is a question I think that we have as viewers, but the whole butterfly effect thing. It's like, doesn't, it's just sort of a side comment, but the dad's like, we haven't really seen any evidence of that happening. So that we know the movie's not going to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
True.
going to be, oh, well, what if you know, kill a fly when you go back? How is that going to
And
affect the future?
he pretty much uses this time travel just to like do the comedic things that we wish we could do when we're just starting off in a new relationship, where like you said something you wish you hadn't said, and so then he's like, fuck, I'm gonna go back into a cupboard and repeat that so I didn't say that. And that's how he uses his time travel, is to go out on dates with someone, and then if he screwed up, reverse it and do it better again and stuff like that, and do it again and again until he's happy with it, kind of a thing.
Well, and that's kind of he sets that up,
Yeah.
again, in that conversation with his dad when dad says, "Oh, this is the deal." He says, because what did the dad ask? "What is it you most want?" Or I don't know, something. So it's a setup for the movie, and he's like, "I'm gonna find a girlfriend."
Yeah.
Um,
What I
and so that's
really like about this also, even because, nah, you know what? We could probably talk about this when we're talking about time travel. But what I really like, I will say briefly, is that this is not a thing that they do in the movie. They never make it so that he runs into himself, because that's like when time travel gets way too complicated, when like you
yep,
can
good
actually see
point.
yourself. So when he goes back in time, he, it's just only him. There's no copies of Bill Weasley. It's only Bill Weasley the whole time, him as just himself. So that makes it easier as well.
Which for I don't know, the purpose of this, we can call him by his name in the movie, which is Tim. So his name's Tim.
Yeah.
Dad's name is Dad. I don't know his name. And then Rachel McAdams is Mary. Oh my God. So Tim has one sibling, his sister, Kit Kat.
Right.
And she is the love of my life.
Have
She
you?
is so sweet. Have you ever met people like that who so this character is flawed, um, as we are, but she gets into at the beginning of the movie, a abusive relationship, I guess we can assume. We don't know a lot about it, but,
Right.
and she has substance use problem with alcohol, but it doesn't you don't see that. You kinda hear it mentioned and maybe see it in a little bit in her relationships kinda later on, how it's affected her, certainly. But I think also Tim sets it up by saying she's my favorite person, and I think that helped me believe, "Oh, yeah, she is great," but maybe I'm just easily influenced. But when he introduces the family to Mary and she just tackles her
Oh
in
yeah,
his
so cute.
ah, it's just sweet and genuine, and she's just a love bug.
Yeah.
But have you ever met anybody who you're like, "Okay, this person is, got a lot of crap going on," shall we say, in their life, and maybe in that for that reason, might be reason to kind of back off them, but they're just the sweetest, kindest, most amazing people or person. Do you ever met anyone like that?
Maybe one or two people max.
Yeah, really? So for you, is it more about just because you haven't met people like that, or it's like you don't necessarily gravitate towards people who have a lot of baggage, shall we say? Tough.
Uh, no, I think like the reason why I haven't met many people like that. I think maybe it's just because I don't know. I
'Cause
feel
you're
like
a young lad?
maybe it's because I'm a young. Maybe they're all old people. Maybe old people are only like that.
Mm,
Well, I was gonna say mostly because like I think people who I know who have baggage, it sort of toughens their exterior. That's the most common that I've experienced. But the kind of people who maintain this like crazy amount of like pure sweetness to them, even regardless of all that stuff, is definitely a rarer personality type, I think.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess also I think how you might define baggage or, is gonna be different with
Sure.
different people. But, anyway, so she doesn't have a big role in the movie, but she's clearly somebody that Tim loves and trusts, and she kind of comes along with him while he's right. So it's I one of the things I like about the movie is he's trying to figure out the time travel thing. We're kind of figuring it out with him.
True.
Because he meets Mary in that hysterical, well, I guess it wasn't hysterical, but that restaurant
Yeah.
that's no lights, so you get led. They said all the servers are blind, and you have to like hold on to their waist, and they lead you downstairs to a dark room.
Yep.
And he goes with his friend who's kind of a bonehead, and they meet these two women, and they're talking to them in the dark. So you just hear the whole conversation. That's when he gets to know Mary. But he goes home while he's living with like his dad's friend. They never really explain how he knows him, but I'm just looking up his name, Harry. And Harry's like a playwright and kind of moody and whatever. And Harry had a horrible night at the play. It was a disaster. The main character forgot his lines. So that's when Tim goes back in time because he wants to try to fix that, and he goes to so like you said, he never was at the play in the beginning, but he goes, how does he do that? He goes back before the play started and then goes, right? And then goes to the theater and
With him.
helps him out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is, funny and fixes that and then tries to call Mary because he had gotten her number at the end of that date, but
Yeah.
then finds he doesn't have her number because he's
Right.
gone back in time. So with that whole time thing, this is what kind of bothers me. It doesn't feel like they're rewriting history. It's more like it's just creating an alternate reality.
Yeah. True. Like if this went different, this is what it would be like, as opposed to.
Yeah, because wouldn't it follow that? So just because he decides to go back in time, Mary's not going to remember any of that. I don't know. It's just that's why I can't think too deeply about it because it's dumb. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense. Or it's I guess you could say, oh, he erased his sister. Okay, but it's more complicated for me when he and his dad have memories.
All right, I will
And then
say if we're
one
talking
of them
about
goes
that,
back in time and then they're
yeah,
like, wait, have we had that? It's just so who decides what the genuine memory is?
yeah. I will say, so the only two things that confused me about the movie, because I felt like it did a pretty good job of being pretty clear, and I felt like I understood what was going on throughout it, or at least like the whole concept of the time traveling really didn't take me out of my enjoyment of the movie. Up,
Hmm.
other than these two moments, the one of them being the whole concept that like you can't go once he has his first child. Davy Jones says to him, "You can't go back. You can't travel back in time before the insemination, or else like it will fuck up what your child ends up being when you return back to the current time." So like childbirth has to remain like you can't. That becomes like a checkpoint in your ability to travel back in time. You can't now go back before having that kid, or else it's gonna be like a different kid. I don't know why the fuck that's the case.
Well, first of all, yeah, it seems like a weird plot. Like, why'd you just throw that puppy in?
Right.
I think it was just because they needed conflict or some sort of, because it doesn't. Yeah, you're right, and it doesn't really further the story along, except at the end or towards the end. I think the only reason they put it in is because at some point the dad gets cancer
Mm.
and dies. And so in order to have some sort of finality with his dad, because the wife, Mary, says, "Hey, do you think we should have a third child?" And he never tells Mary, which we'll get into that in a second because that bothers me, about the time travel thing. And he knows he can only go back in time and live memories with his dad until the birth of the child. Because, like you said, the checkpoints.
Yeah. And but then at the end of the movie goes back in time to being like 12 with his dad. And that was like, what?
That was
Did
before she had the baby. And actually, he didn't go back in time. The dad went back in time.
Oh,
He
yeah.
must have, right? Because
Yeah.
if Tim went back in time, he would have messed with his children,
Yeah. You know what? I
with the
think I
birth of the
assumed
children.
because they looked at each other like knowingly at the end of that movie. I felt like they went into the cabinet to well, they did, didn't they? Didn't they both go into a dark cabinet together? And
They went in
then
together. Yeah, I guess I assumed it was the dad who kind of led it.
gotcha.
Well, because, when there's a point before all that, when Kit Kat, the sister, is supposed to come to
Mhm.
Tim and Mary's their daughter's first birthday, and
Mhm.
you get the feeling that she's like an involved aunt and a big part of their family, and she's in a terrible car accident because she'd been drinking and all of that. So he tells her she's the only one that he tells
Mm.
about being able to travel in time, and he brings her into the cupboard because he wants to go back in time with her so that she can not get with that boyfriend.
Right.
And that's when he finds out from the dad that, can't do that, can't be doing
Right.
that, or else her child. So, do you wanna know, this is horrible and probably makes me a terrible mother. I don't think this now, but the first time I saw it, I thought, "Okay, so you have a different child. Wha You're recreating life, like, the sequence of life. Why does it matter?" That's what was my
Mhm.
first thought.
Mhm.
Well, only like because I guess I was thinking about when people say, "Oh, well, I don't know." Let's say somebody has a horrific marriage and they get divorced, but they had kids while they were married. And then they'll be like, "Oh, but we wouldn't have had this beautiful child
Uh-huh.
unless we were together." Yeah, but you would have had a different beautiful child and you wouldn't have known what you were missing
Right.
because you have this beautiful child.
All
But
right, I have a
anyway.
question for you.
Mhm.
If you
But
had
I no
the
longer felt that way. I watched it this past time and thought, "Corey, you evil monster."
Okay,
Of course, that's not the case. Okay.
but here's here's a thought. Would you say you had Bill Weasley's power of being able to travel back in time, right? Just like him. Uh you have a kid and not too happy with the results. So would you be like I'm gonna go I'm gonna go back and read a book, come back to this point, see what I get, like you're pulling the lever down on a slot machine trying to get a new result.
Well, no. Well,
No?
just well, because here's the thing. I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, but I've talked to people who've kids, but when you have that child, they are the most beautiful, perfect human being that you've ever laid your eyes on, and you cannot believe how lucky you are to have made that child. Um, And it doesn't matter if they have one eye and, you know, lesions on their skin and two toes. You just think they're the most perfect thing.
You just created a Monsters Inc. character.
I mean, admittedly, my children don't look like that. They are beautiful. But after, it's just a strange thing because when my second child was born, then I would see pictures of my first child and I was able to see things that, like, oh, yeah, they're still beautiful and perfect, but you're like, oh, their head shape's kind of funny, but you don't think that when they're first born. And it's
Right.
a biological thing. So no, I don't think I would do that. However, I don't have the power to go back in time. So maybe that does reshape how you live your life.
For sure, for sure. Anyway, so
Um,
did you like the movie?
I did like the movie. Did you like the movie? What did you like about it? Did you like it as just a standalone movie or did you like it as a rom-com?
I liked it as a rom-com. I thought it was a
Yeah.
really great rom-com. I mean, it's
What
not top of
what
my
about it
charts
did
as
you
far as
like?
like as far as like best movies in general that I've ever seen, but as far as the rom-com genre goes,
Mhm.
I thought it was a home run for sure.
What made you think that?
Um I think something it did really well. First of all, from like a filmmaking perspective, cinematography was pretty nice. Uh, definitely like production wise, seemed like it was not another one of your Hollywood esque looking summer flicks. Go out in July to watch a rom com in the theaters style of movie. It looked like it had a little more artistic vision than that. Um,
Mhm.
as far as story goes, first of all, the acting, great. Like
I agree.
convinced by each character. Bill Nighy, fucking, you loved him immediately. He was awesome.
Ah, and I don't know if they said this or if I just got the impression, but I think how he chose he was a very present dad. He just go back in time and keep playing ping pong with his kids, right?
Right,
Was that like his big thing?
right,
That's how he chose to spend his time and read books, which is endearing.
right, right. And the way that Lindsay Duncan, who's the mom, even performed that role was like you could tell that she was obviously a super down to earth mom and really cared. Everybody played. First of all, the writing was great, so like you really genuinely liked all the characters, but also they were acted in such a way that you genuinely liked them as well. So like on both those fronts, the writing and the acting, I feel like you just really liked the people that you were watching and you're rooting for them. So that's awesome. I thought. Another one of the things I feel like a lot of rom coms nowadays fall under this gimmick of trying to make the couple of interest, like the main
Mhm.
two leads, they try to make them sassy towards each other and like have this like real like back and forth kind of relationship at the beginning of the movie, and then at the end of the movie they're like, you know what, we actually do like each other, kind of a thing. I feel like tons of rom-coms have been doing that style, and I don't like it so much because I just straight up don't like the characters when they do that, where they're just like so kind of like sassy and snooty, and they're like no romantic,
Yeah, I
like,
get what you're saying.
yeah, there's no chemistry between them basically. Whereas movies like this, there's lots of chemistry between the characters of Bill Weasley and Rachel McAdams, and it's that chemistry that makes you like kind of engrossed in the love aspect of the rom com, and so it's entertaining because you look forward to seeing how that plays out for them.
Well,
And
and I think you have a good point, and it's not that back and forth or that's not the conflict. The
right,
conflict isn't are they not gonna get together?
hmm,
Which just makes it more enjoyable.
right, right. Yeah, I agree.
It Is there anything that you would go back in time for? How would you use? Because Tim says, so like I was saying, you kinda go through the journey with him, he's trying to figure out how to use the time, and then he ends up living every day. Well, for a while, he'll live every day twice, which I thought, "That sounds exhausting." Did you think that? I don't wanna live every day twice.
I'm sure there's certain days where I'd be like, do I live this again? Nah, fuck it, I'll do it Friday. Like I don't. I definitely think I wouldn't do every single day, but But at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't know. Maybe it would be cool.
Also, and maybe this is just because of how I am as a person, but I wouldn't be okay with the not telling my partner that I can travel in time and change the events of a lifetime. It feels like a pretty, significant what's that called when you don't say something? It's not necessarily a lie, but you're lying by not telling, by not saying something.
Mm.
Omission. Lying by omission.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, so, like, when the kid destroys the mother's manuscript that she was supposed to read,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I just have to step out. I just have to step out," because he wants to change that history of that. So, anyway, I that would how can you just tell such a bold lie like that? I don't know. They didn't get into that. That wasn't the point.
I feel like though I can understand why he didn't though. I feel like he'd be like, you know what, this is gonna cause tensions in our relationship that just really would not exist if I just don't tell you. So I'm gonna not. And I can understand that. I can understand him being like, you know what? I bet you we're gonna have some real arguments happening if I come out with this. I'm
Did they
just
ever
keeping to
get into
myself.
why he can't tell anyone about the time travel?
No,
I don't think they did.
nah.
So
It was
that's obviously a flaw in the movie that
yeah.
you're just
They were
kinda like,
just like,
"Okay,
no,
whatever."
just don't, just don't. Yeah.
Don't do it. So you know what's funny? And you said, Corey, why we were kind of talking or texting before we did this conversation, and you said you can't say that you like rom-coms because the people are gorgeous. But I think there is a part of that. Not necessarily. Obviously, their personality plays a big piece because, like you said, a lot of the rom-coms that the people are kind of snooty and not likable, they do tend to be attractive, and I don't like them because they're not likable protagonists.
Corey, are you saying you go to town with Bill Weasley? Are you saying Bill Weasley is like is on your postered wall?
Well, he is a ginger. I do like my gingers.
Hey,
Um,
me too.
I think he's adorable. I think that he's an adorable character, so that worked.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think okay. I'll tweak your theory about that. I'll say it's hard for me to be as interested, and you agree with this too because I've heard you say this, that it's hard to be as so enthralled in a teen rom-com because it just feels weird because you're like, I don't feel like I can connect with this because you're kids.
I won't watch them.
Yeah.
I won't watch the teen rom-coms because 'cause I'm like, "This is inappropriate." I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
wanna.
I'd only be cool with grown-up rom-coms. Yeah.
Yes! And so, actually, I know we've been talking for a while, so we probably have to wrap it up soon, but what is it? Because I think that you and I like rom-coms for different reasons. What's sort of the reason that you like, and I do think rom-coms, they're a little bit in a different category than the Hallmark romance movies, but what is it about them that you like?
Hmm. Well, I think most rom-coms that I've seen I like more ironically than unironically. Um, though, like for example, About Time is definitely a less is much more an enjoyment that's unironic, right? And what I mean by that is like I enjoy Hallmark movies not because I'm like that was a really good movie. I enjoy it because like I just love you just love watching something.
A train wreck?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like it's there's enjoyment because sincerely it was great, and there's enjoyment because it was not great, but boy, it was sincere. So like
Sincere.
that's
Damn, they
awesome.
tried. Bless them.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, so I like rom-coms, I think, because I think it's just one of those, like, out of reality things,
yeah,
um,
for sure.
but I think what can be detrimental about it is if you're not experienced in relationships and you're watching rom-coms, and you're
This is
like.
how it is. This is what life is like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not even consciously, I mean, that stuff seeps in sometimes, and it can make you go, "Wait, what?
I
Why
feel
isn't
you
my
though.
life more
Especially
exciting?" Yeah, so
if you're a younger viewer and you're like, this is what it should be like, and if you're not getting that out of your life, you're like, what am I doing
yeah.
wrong? Why am I not Rachel McAdams in About Time? What's wrong with my life?
One of the things that kind of bothered me about the movie was Okay, so I have 2 kids, and they're mostly well behaved. Like, I feel very lucky and fortunate. But this whole bullshit of nobody's crying, they have an alarm to wake them up in the morning, not the children yelling at them or flicking their eyeballs open. That's not realistic. That took me out of the the movie. Or when they're on the train with, like, a kid that could not have been more than 2, and they're just coloring quietly. No. This
Yeah,
whoever made this movie does not have children.
they definitely they had the best, most well-behaved kids in that
Oh
movie
my
for
god,
sure.
and they're
Yeah,
having quiet moments where they're talking at the end of the night.
it's
I
pretty
was
wild.
like,
Yeah,
"What is this?"
the fact that they were able to go to bed like as if their kids were 16 and 14, being
Yeah,
like, "Good night, honey. Good night." Lights out.
but I did like it. I would how many stars would you give it out of should we do 5 or 10? Out of 5 stars.
Out of 5 stars, oof, 5 is always so claustrophobic. I prefer 10. I'm gonna say, out of 10 stars, I'd give it 2 Gleason beards.
2 Domhnall Gleeson beards.
Yeah,
He does have a good beard.
I know. So 2 of them. That's a pretty good movie.
Out of 10 stars,
Yeah,
you can't be using 2 different measurements.
I don't know. It seems
Um,
like that works.
okay, out of 10 stars, 2 Domhnall Gleeson beards. I think out of 10, I would probably give it an 8. And
Okay.
I'm gonna write this down because this might come up later
All right.
if
All
we're gonna
right. All right.
compare and
All right.
contrast movies.
Okay. We're rating them amongst the other rom-coms that have been created in the world. That's what it's the 10 means the best rom-com,
That
right?
we've seen, obviously.
Got you,
Yeah.
got you. I'd put this at a 7.5.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, brother. Well, it's good talking to you, brother.
Bye, big sister.